Hello and welcome to Sage Garden Ecovillas. It is December 28th, 2025. It's been a long time since we've done a video tour. We have a lot of new doings and beings going on right now, so let's get to it. Here you see 3 buckets of biochar made from wood that was grown on site next to our kitchen compost, where we compost our kitchen scraps into soil amendments and fertilizer. We've got a pistachio tree here, pomegranate, jasmine bush growing up in the pomegranate, senna right next to it, and a pine. These leaves were kind of expropriated, if you will, from various places around the neighborhood where they were a waste product, and we're putting them to use. I'll show you a couple of ways that we're using those. Here's a lime tree, which is producing limes for the first time this year, sitting in the shade of this mesquite, very happily in the shade of the mesquite. And you might think, what is going on here? The lime needs a whole lot of water. The mesquite doesn't need a lot of water. Don't you have to have all plants in the area with the same kind of habitat needs? And I guess that kind of makes a certain sense, but it, I think, misses the point that the plants have agency, not only to take care of their own needs, but also to change the environment around them. Let me explain that a little bit. So, the plants actively drink from the water. We think we're watering the plants, but we're actually just watering the soil, and then the plants actively drink from the water that's available in the soil. So, number one, to take care of their own needs, they will drink when they're hungry. And number two, as they do, they change the environment around them. So this thirsty tree next to a tree that's not so thirsty, the thirsty tree will drink faster, and it will then deplete the amount of water in the surroundings, and the tree that's not so thirsty will be happy as well. So within limitations, you can kind of ignore that. that kind of. So here's what we're doing. One of the things we're doing with the leaves. Here's a mostly horse manure compost pile. Let's check out the temperature of the compost pile. So there's a horse property down the road. We use the horse manure along with some of the wood chips here that are on site, which came from arborists that just needed to dump some of the wood chips. Rather than take them to the dump, they drop them off here thanks to Chip Drop. We also have some junk mail in this compost pile. What else? Oh, some of the leaves I mentioned. And so we're putting all those things together. What do we got here? About 140 degrees. Needle is still climbing, so somewhere north of 140 degrees. And we'll turn this pile a few times to make sure that every part of the pile gets well cooked, to kill off any weed seeds or parasites, pathogens. Look at the mushrooms growing. That's a good sign to me. That indicates that we've got plenty of carbon in the pile. So that's a good sign. So after it gets turned a few times, it'll get put into a static ventilated setup like this. You see the perforated pipe in the middle goes to a T in the bottom center, and then there are 2 lateral pipes that come out. So the air can flow, up or down or across, whatever way it wants to flow. And that means we don't have to turn this pile anymore. After it's been turned a few times and everything's been cooked, it no longer has to be turned, and that gives the fungal hyphae time to grow more so than if we were constantly disturbing it by turning it. Let me grab a shovel and show you what the end product looks like. If you'll grant me a little digression here. It's a ways down there, so just use a shovel to expose this. So we put the sheets on here to limit the evaporation and the loss of moisture from the pile, but it still allows air to flow through. So here's the end product. Nice fine rich compost. I could stand to use a little bit more water in there. So we'll add some water to it, but all in all, very happy with how our cover is performing. All right, let's move on. So here's the other side of that pomegranate we saw earlier. Little forest area over here, some aloes, oak, saltbush. Here's another thing that we're doing with the leaves. This stack of 15-gallon pots we're using to make leaf mold. So you can see the raw ingredients that go in is just leaves and water. That's all we have to add. Of course, nature adds other ingredients too, and spores from naturally occurring fungi in the air and the soil. But as the human participant in this recipe, all you need to add is leaves and water. And then I can grab a little bit out of the bottom here if I can find, yeah, there are holes in the bottom. And you can see the end product. There's a little bit, but it's this nice, fine leaf mold at the end, which you can use to amend the soil. You can sift it and make a potting mix out of it. That's very useful. So we can always use more leaves. Hello, chickens. Here's another salt bush. This one tastes better, so I'd like to propagate this guy in the spring. There's our guamuchil tree. More aloe. There's a little date palm, and the desert willow is dormant for the year. We've got some edible weeds, very plentiful this time of year. We've got some mallow, some lamb's quarter, rosemary over here. More mallow, big leaves. My sister Katie she came over to help harvest some of these weeds, and really grateful for the encouragement to put these guys to use. One of my favorite weeds to see is London rocket, otherwise known as wild mustard, Cicimbrium aereo. The older ones have a really, really sharp, like horseradish flavor. So always happy to see those, and you can see we've got plenty here. Let's go to the labyrinth. So we have a walking labyrinth, which has been transformed over the past year or so. If you haven't seen it for a while, here it is. Let's take a shortcut inside. Hello, Mr. Olive Tree. Hello, Labyrinth. Do you mind if we take a shortcut? Thank you, guys. So here's what it looks like inside. Look at that. It's quiet. I mean, you can still hear the sounds of the suburbs, but I guess they say at Avalon you could hear the bell of the Glastonbury Abbey. Although the two, Avalon and Glastonbury, were co-located in space, they may as well have been on different planets. That's kind of what it feels like in this walking labyrinth now. And there's the olive tree in the center. I think we're going to turn around here, get back to the rest of the video. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, aren't they? Back to the yard, and more aloe growing, lots of sunflowers. Here's a hackberry. This is a desert hackberry, so it's got edible berries on it, edible to humans. Another pine, some jojoba, ironwood, wolfberry. We've got kind of a grove of leucanas here. Pigeon peas. This is the first time this year is the first time I've got pigeon peas to germinate successfully. It's not actually the ideal time of year to grow them, but they came up willingly. Here is this is a anaerobic compost that's mostly water. It has grass clippings and other plant debris, if you will. Rather than throw them away, will put their nutrients to use in this. So they're fermenting in here, and then we'll draw off the liquid as a fertilizer for all those nutrients that have been reclaimed. Here's our curry leaf tree. The berries have dried up by now, but the curry leaves themselves are wonderful. Got our mulberry down at the left, on the left at the end of the row there. It's going dormant, losing its leaves this time of year. This will be our tropicals patch. Right now it's dominated by leucaenas, but this fall we started introducing some more species into it, including ginger. You can see larger ginger sprouts over here. And in the spring, well, let me back up a step. So in the fall, we pollarded the leucaenas to about 8 feet. In the spring, we will take out a lot more of the biomass of the leucaenas and replace it with other species. So we're going to build up the diversity. We're going to keep the density in here. You got a little bit of moringa. It's not the ideal time of year to plant moringa, but some of them germinated. Got some nasturtium in here as well. And we use the leucaena cuttings, you can see here, as a fertilizer and also as a mulch to regulate the temperature and the water in the soil here. So in the spring we'll cut these back, we'll thin them out quite a bit. So we'll take out many of these entirely, probably leave one row of leucaenas for continual biomass production, chop and drop, and for continuous photosynthesis as well to feed the soil microbiology. But we will add in a lot more diversity, and we'll have, you know, a variety of forms, a variety of heights of plants, a variety of light requirements of plants, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that shapes up in its next transformation. Our oranges are almost ripe. They'll be ripening up in January. I mean, we could probably harvest some now. This carob tree was not planted, but I am really grateful to have a carob tree on site. It's nitrogen fixing, and we've planted some other saplings too. We don't know what sex this carob tree is, but hoping that we can get at least one male and one female and get some carob pods. That would be a wonderful addition. Here's a little area that we've repurposed in the winter to process moringa leaves and some of those weeds that we looked at. So here's that London rocket or wild mustard. I've also been processing some of the lamb's quarter. If I get a chance before we cut down the weeds, I'll also harvest and process a lot of the mallow as well. There's a little panache tiger stripe fig. Here's a blue Palo Verde that just volunteered here. And this year, for the first time, we had a significant number of flowers and pods on it. So I'm looking forward to even more pods next summer and putting those seeds to use to eat. We've recently, as I said, pollarded the moringa trees. Well, these three main trees. So we've got the two on either end of the hammock, and there's another large one beyond that. Those are the three oldest and largest moringa trees on site, and you can see we've pruned them back heavily. And moringas don't mind that. They'll pop right back in the spring. We've left some kind of scaffold branches going over the sidewalk as kind of a natural pergola, if you will. And it will also be a scaffold for any vining plants that we want to put in. Right now, the middle moringa tree has a, what is that? A Rogers Red grapevine on it. So we'll add, I don't know, grapes maybe, maybe blackberries, maybe boysenberry, maybe kiwi even, and have those climb up the moringas and go right over the top and give us shade in the summer. Let me point out a couple of things here. As we pruned the moringas, we prepared some of these as stakes to propagate. This is not the ideal time of the year to propagate moringas by stakes. Spring would be better. And we've been putting those stakes that are available in the ground, like this one, So that one we just put in. Katie helped me with that. Thank you, Katie. And so we're in the process of putting some of those in the ground. Lesson I learned, next time I do that, I think what I'm going to do is more of a staghorn style prune in the fall, where we'll just take the lateral branches and leave the main limbs over the winter. That will allow the sun to come in. It'll give us the biomass we want. It'll give us the food that we want, but it will keep those limbs alive so that in the spring we can cut the limbs and make cuttings out of that. And that'll be a more appropriate time of the year to try to propagate those cuttings. We have some volunteer acacias back here. One was very well placed for the hammock. Two are not very well placed for the hammock. We'll probably cut these two out because they're just too close to the hammock, and it's not as if we have a scarcity of acacia trees here. So, and as we cut them off at the ground level, their roots will stay in the ground and that will feed the soil. Here's our jujube. We have some smaller fruits still on the tree. I'm surprised they're still up there. We have a volunteer lantana bush. We'll take that out of the system. There have been incidences of smaller children being actually poisoned to death with lantana berry, I understand. But it is poison. If it's toxic if you try to eat the berries too early in the season. So definitely be careful with those. Like I said, I think we're going to cut this one out of the system just so we don't have any danger. We've got some little tomatoes. Thank you, Bonnie, for the tomato plants. So we planted them here next to the clothesline. Some go in here. I've got a couple more that are going to go in a couple other places where they have room to kind of climb up on something like this. Also planted some companions for them here, including alfalfa and some barley. So they will be short-lived companions. In the spring we'll plant some things with a little bit longer lifespan. But right now these guys that are here are helping to prepare the soil, and hopefully we'll have lots of tomatoes. There's another patch here. You can really see the barley coming up the narrow leaves. And of course our grapevine over the clothesline. There's a little outdoor laundry area. And all of these moringas here are just volunteer. Very happy to see them. So that's our little tour of Sage Garden right now. Thank you for coming along, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.